Hey everyone, I'm Instructor Brooks, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about Project 451, the temperature at which books burn. So if you're ready to learn something, let's go. So a little bit about my backstory is that I am a trained English teacher. I taught English for a few years in public schools before dipping back into college and becoming a PTA, and now I'm here. So I have such an appreciation for the written word, for literature, for books, and reading, and I understand and know and value the importance of that. However, there is a time and a place, and I think we're reaching a time and we're in a place in our PTA classrooms where reading is obsolete, and we need to rethink textbooks. And that's what Project 451 is all about. It's a dramatic play, obviously, on the burning and destruction of all the books from the famous Ray Bradbury novel. If you haven't read it, you should. But we need to rethink how we're using textbooks in our classrooms. If you watched any of my videos, you know I'm always going to pull up some research. So what does the research say about textbooks in the classroom? So the research I'm going to be talking about comes from a study that was shown at CSM back in 2020. That was actually here in Denver, Colorado. Whoop. I remember seeing all those people with those green curly sticks digging into their back. You knew who all the PT and PTAs were in the city that weekend. It was awesome. So what is the purpose of the research? Well, it was to determine how, and of course, this is one of the other problems with PTA. All the research is pretty much done on PTs. There's nothing for PTA, but I would say we could probably easily make a very good side-by-side comparison for a lot of the problems that we have in the classroom and a lot of the struggles we have, honestly, regardless of the profession. So using DPT students' reading rates and how it affected their ability to complete assigned reading tasks. So here are the results. The DPT program required over 10,000 pages of assigned reading in the academic year of 2018-2019. Think about that, 10,000 pages. So the students, of course, reported on average that only about 24% of the required reading was completed. All right, not even a quarter of the reading material was completed. And what is the reason for that? Well, here you see, number one, lack of time. 95% of the students said they were unable to finish because of lack of time to do it. And I agree. I'm not going to pull up a huge math chart here about, reading rates for the typical Gen Z learner, which you have to think about. If people aren't reading this type of information already, and this is a whole nother skill, their time spent reading is going to be significant, and that's just reading, and we'll get into that. So lack of time is a big problem, and I want you to think about this too with the lack of time. When you're reading, you have to have your eyes on the page. You have to be sitting, you have to be in the chair, you can't move, you are stuck there, and it's really hard for people in this day and age to be able to sit down for an extended period of time with their eyes only on one thing. Also, 87% of students said that other material was more helpful than textbooks. Maybe this is the Instructor Brooks campus, maybe it's a visible body, maybe whatever, but they found those things to be more helpful. Now, whether or not they were, I don't know, but the students said they were. 50% said there was no perceived benefit, and I could go into a lot of reasons of how this is. We'll talk a little bit about the purpose of reading later in the video, but really that's on the teacher right there, that there's no perceived benefit. And the last one, and I actually, even though this is only 30%, I bet you this is higher, and the students who were able to admit this can show some vulnerability, because they said reading is too difficult. Okay, so it probably is, because have you tried to read the O'Sullivan book all the way through? Yeah. If you are a person who's done that, great. You're probably crazy, because no one's opened it up from page 1 and gone all the way to page 0, reading it straight through. And when you look at the syllabus, that's pretty much what we have the students do. Of course, that's insanely difficult. You're reading, it's not fiction, it's not poetry, it's not Sports Illustrated. It is like hardcore science reading. That is difficult to do. So what's the clinical relevance of this? Well, reading textbooks is not considered as valuable to students as other resources, which we have proof in that study. So with the rising costs of textbooks, PT programs should evaluate their textbook reading. And that is part of, from the CSM, the study that they released at CSM back in 2020. What year is this? The timing of this video. It is November of 2023. And I bet a lot of things haven't changed. So here's another study. This is an analysis of student use of textbooks in entry-level PT programs. So now, we're looking at the entry level. The other one is on DPT, okay? So obviously a pretty high level there. Now we're getting entry level. So what was the purpose of this study? Well, to describe textbook use among current students and recent graduates of a PT program, and to determine how this information might be utilized in addressing faculty textbook decisions in entry-level education. So the results, only 6 of the 23 texts were considered useful by the students. 6 of 23. Incredible. That's 25%. Students purchased a smaller percentage of required text and maintain a high level of success. So what this is saying is, so maybe there were 23 required textbooks, but students were still getting good grades without purchasing all the textbooks. So they were able to get the information somewhere else. Maybe my free YouTube channel, well, even though it's PTA related, PTs also use it. Who knows what other resources they were finding online or Quizlet and whatnot to help them get the grades that they wanted to get. So not having the books didn't hurt them in class. Now, that could also be a product of the classroom and the teacher and the assessments, or it could just be that, hey, maybe the books really aren't the be-all, end-all to getting information. So the clinical relevance of this is the faculty should carefully consider their instruction delivery when making decisions about if required textbooks are truly required for success. So really, this is a really fancy way of saying, is it worth the money? Could that money be spent somewhere else? Could that time be spent somewhere else? So let's pause for a minute and talk about the role of reading in the classroom. Well, not really pausing, but we've talked about, how students don't like reading. They don't think it's effective. They don't have time. They're still getting good grades without reading the textbooks or even purchasing them. So what is the role of reading? One of the major components of reading is that there must be a clear objective for the student when they're reading through the text. So if you don't have, I've done reading guides and things like that to try to engage them in the text, and you have to have something active. If it's just to say, read chapter 23, that is not a clear objective for reading. So when determining the amounts and areas of focus for reading, I think there's one major thing we need to think about, that the students should be reading for comprehension, not just consuming words on a page. And my students hardly ever open their book, but when they do, it is with a direct focus. So a clear objective, role of reading, the amount of time, 1 to 2 minutes, if that, if they can find where the information is. And they're doing it to make sure they understand something, and reading that sentence or that paragraph or that chart for comprehension, not just consuming bits of information that really aren't going to find a purpose in their brain. So I tell the students to engage the text. They pull it out. Usually the one I have that's just sitting in my library. I know they're going to need the book, so I have it sitting there ready to go for people to come use it. But it's clear, objective, and it's a minute or less in the book. So now let's go to, we've talked about the purpose of reading. We talked about the fact that students don't like the amount of reading they're given, and it's not really effective to purchase all those books because they're still getting the grades they want. Let's look at the learning pyramid. We talk about this all the time. Let's see here at the top, you have, see where my cursor is, reading about, it's very passive still. So I've talked, of course, ad nauseum about the ineffectiveness of lecture, but then the next thing is the ineffectiveness of reading. It's only 10%, or students only remember 10% of what they read. Now, that's after they read it. Now we got to go to the forgetting curve. Within 6 days, so 100% of whatever they remember, so 20%, let's say, or 10%, I'm sorry. Let's say on a great day, they remember 10% of what they just read, which they may, if they truly try to consume it, spend 3 or 4 hours on. And by day 6, they remember less than 20%, but let's just give them credit for remembering 20% of the 10% they read. That's only 2.5% of what they read. Again, a horrible return on investment, slightly better than lecture, but still not good. So when students have to read and you are assigning specific reading for the students, there must be some kind of reading accountability. This could be, I have a lot of different accountability tasks on my campus, but it could be, a reading guide that they fill out, like a worksheet as they go through the text. There has to be something that they're doing actively outside of the reading. And if you're saying they should just take notes, that's okay, but that's not guided. That's missing the aspect of a clear objective. And a clear objective is if you give them 5 questions to answer that are not super open-ended, that are very black and white finite. Those are the kind of things that are easy, low stress, low stakes, but great accountability tasks to make sure the students are reading. So I've talked a ton about the reading, but I want to make sure we understand that one of the major points is the students were getting good grades without buying all the textbooks. So now we have this extra money. Or what if every student didn't have a textbook? Because I'm actually a believer that every program now should pretty much just have 3 or 4 of every text, keep it in their library, and students can use it as they need or the instructor specifically assigns. But then what is the alternative if we do that to the textbooks? Guess what? The Instructor Brooks campus. So what are the benefits of using my videos in the classroom? Well, first off, you got me in the camera, so it creates a more engaging sensory experience than using basic print. Plus, if I have PowerPoints or activity, they're listening and they might be reading the things on the screen, but they're also seeing me move my pen. It's a more engaging experience. It's hitting more of your senses. So, of course, that's going to help you remember the information a little bit better. The Instructor Brooks campus itself and the videos I have provide a go-to resource that can be watched from anywhere. So not only can students access it through their PC at home, but they can also access it on their phone with my app that I have, or the Kajabi app, and they can access that information anywhere. Remember when I talked about with reading, you have to have your eyes on the page? Can you read and drive? No. Can you listen to videos while driving like a podcast? Absolutely. Can you go for a walk and listen to the videos? Absolutely. Because the more you can try to engage the information, regardless of how, the better. Now, you could reread the O'Sullivan book 20 times and be a baller at it, but I hope you have that much time. That'd be incredible if you could. And it's just a fact that videos increase knowledge retention. Remember, I was talking about the more engaging sensory component because you got more things going on with their eyes, the activities, hearing. It's much better. And another good perk of videos themselves is that students can go back to the video. If they're sitting in your lecture class, when you erase the board, and if you're not using the board, you should, because that's a better way to teach, I promise. The class is gone. It's over. I remember when I used to teach on the board, when I erased it, I was like, it's going to be gone. It's gone. I can never redo that. But if I have a great lecture that I've videotaped or a great video that I have for students, boom, they can watch it as many times as they want. No excuse. And what this has really done, what I've spent the last 3 years on, since 2020 to 2023 on, is creating my library of information. I've taken everything out of all the books that's necessary for the students, and it's all the books we use in our classes anyway, and I've made it in video form, just having the information. But what did that do? That was a lot of work on the front end, but it let me flip the classroom. And if you've watched any of my other videos on flipping the classroom, this is the way to teach. Because in this, you've eliminated, if you're like, what's a flipped classroom? Simple. You've eliminated lecture. Lecture is out of the classroom. Students are not paying to come sit and listen to you talk anymore. They're coming to experience your teaching with activities, cool games, and all types of challenges. So really, when people ask, what is the Instructor Brooks campus? It is your digital tool for flipping your classroom. That is one of the things the Instructor Brooks campus is. If you don't need anything else but except the videos that are just the information, I can help you flip the classroom. But also, I help coach, I got activities, I got all types of stuff on the campus. But it is your go-to digital platform to flip that classroom. So if you want to learn more about the Instructor Brooks campus and you're a program director, go to my website, instructorbrooks.com, click on Program Directors, click here, and we could talk about how to incorporate my coaching, how to incorporate my campus into your program. So let's schedule a meeting. Let's change PTA education. Let's crush it. Let's have fun. Catch you in the next video.